All right, everyone, welcome to Strictly Sports. I am Jacob Brown. Today, we are doing our NBA Eastern Conference preview video for the playoffs. I'm joined with CJ Uri here today. We're going to be reviewing the entire NBA Eastern Conference playoffs. Now, originally, we were going to do, like we were doing with baseball, we were going to do daily NBA podcasts for each individual playoff team. But when talking about it, CJ and I, we were kind of thinking, maybe that's not the best way to do it. It's kind of weird to do individual team videos if you're not really previewing anything or not really reviewing anything. We think that this would be a better way to comprehensively summarize what's going on in the NBA right now and just, kind of saying what these playoff matchups are going to be. The playoffs, we don't know when they're going to start. They could be at any time. There's rumors that the playoffs might be played in Las Vegas. There's rumors that we might not get any basketball. Regardless, we're in a sports hiatus right now. No sports are going on. We have nothing better to do, and this seems like a fun thing to do to pass time. So instead of doing daily NBA pods, we're going to be doing the Eastern Conference playoff preview today. We're going to be doing the Western Conference NBA playoff video that will upload on Wednesday. Then on Friday, we'll switch over to the NHL. We'll bring Steven and CJ on for those, and we'll do NHL pods on Friday for the Eastern Conference and Sunday for the Western Conference. After that, we'll get into a bunch of NFL coverage. The NFL draft is coming. That's actually a sports event that's going to happen. There's going to be a lot to talk about with that. We're planning on doing a 2-round mock draft on the show before the draft. We'll do a post-draft show, obviously. And we also are planning on doing an FAU athletics pod as well. So that's basically the rundown of what's coming on Strictly Sports in the month of April. And with that, let's get started here on our NBA podcast talking about the Eastern Conference playoffs. What's up, CJ?
What's up?
Yeah, so, we've got a lot to talk about here with the East. There's going to be some, if it's played, let's just say that, there will be some pretty good matchups over here. We've already talked about the Bucks and Magic matchup a little bit on the Magic video. We can go a little bit more into that now because we weren't really talking about Milwaukee specifically. So, CJ, when looking at a series like that between Milwaukee and Orlando, Milwaukee being the number 1 seed, Orlando being the number 8, what do you think is going to happen in that series? Personally, I think it's probably a 4 or 5 game series.
I say it's a sweep. I don't know. I think the Bucks are coming back in the playoffs with a little bit of vengeance at the moment. Just due to them not making the finals last year. They're a very competitive organization. They're always well ran, and on top of that, they have the best basketball player in the league right now, in my opinion, in Giannis Antetokounmpo, with a great supporting cast. I think that this game is a 4-game sweep, but I'm going to tell you now, in those 4 games, they absolutely need their supporting cast to get hot. And what I mean by that is to start playing start getting the feel of winning basketball games and getting hot, because a lot of their team are shooters. So if they can get in those 4 games, if they could just get a quick sweep and show and they're getting the motions down and all that, that's huge. And I'm also looking for Chris Middleton to consistently average what he's averaging in the NBA right now, which is 21 points a game. I'd like to see Chris Middleton get up to 23 points per game range, because Giannis is going to get doubled. Giannis is going to get tripled, and the second Chris Middleton starts getting hot and somebody has to go out and cover him, then Giannis can usually break a double. So, and obviously this series is going to be a complete blowout. 4-1 at the max, but I think it's 4-0, and I think the Bucks need to just be looking at this like, let's get everyone hot, let's get everyone back in the rhythm, and then round 2 we'll play someone harder, and we're going to need to step up.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's face it, their record was 53-12. That's insane. They beat basically everyone they played. This team can play at home. They can play on the road. They have shooters. They have big men. They have the right coach. They have basically everything you would need to win an NBA title. The Orlando Magic should not scare them whatsoever. I think they're a respectable team, but again, in the NBA, it's the one sport where every year you're going to get under 500 teams in the playoffs. The Magic are 30-35. They're no match for the Milwaukee Bucks. But I mean, yeah, I think the underrated part of the Bucks roster is the rest of the team. No one, everyone talks about Chris Middleton because he got the big contract, but they do have a lot of other good players. They have Eric Bledsoe, they have Connaughton, they have George Hill, they have Ilyasova, Kyle Korver, Brooke and Robin Lopez, the two brothers, Wesley Matthews. They've got some real players on this team. They can all shoot. There's a mix of big men. There's a mix of youth. There's a mix of vet presence in there. I love this Milwaukee Bucks team, and they should face no problems whatsoever with the Orlando Magic. Now let's look at the 2v7 matchup, I should say, between the defending NBA champion Toronto Raptors at the 2 seed versus the injured and brittle Brooklyn Nets at the 7. Now, I will say, maybe if the NBA comes back midsummer, we could see a Kevin Durant return. There's no report or evidence supporting that, but he had said that he wasn't going to play until next season. Maybe you could theorize that he might be healthy. Maybe Kyrie as well could be healthy by then. Again, no reports are suggesting that. I'm just saying with the hiatus of sports, maybe they will be healthy when this comes to play. So what do you think about this series, CJ? I mean, this could be an interesting one between the Raptors and Nets.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, like, I guess, we're doing the NBA, this podcast for today, if the league were to start back up today, and that would be a sweep, in my opinion. No Kyrie, no Kevin Durant, Toronto Raptors defending finals champions, great defense, really tough place to play in Toronto. Those fans are loud. That might be one of the hardest places to play in the league when they're in the playoffs. And I just really like that Raptors roster. They play great team ball, and this is a perfect series for Kyle Lowry to heat up in preparation for round 2. I think it's a 4-0 sweep. The second that the Raptors go up 2-0 at home, I think the series is, obviously over. And then, yeah, I mean, look, the Nets, it stinks, but guess what? I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, and next year, they're going to get Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant fully healthy and playing great basketball, and they could very well be the 1 seed next year. You could see a team go from the 7 to the 1, but for this year, they get swept by the Toronto Raptors.
I agree with you there, and to mention the other players on this Raptor roster, I mean, even though Kawhi left, even though Danny Green left, they still have a really great roster. They have Pascal Siakam, who's an all-star starter. They have Serge Ibaka, who can still ball. They've got Marc Gasol. Powell is very good. Van Vliet, of course, coming off the bench. And he even starts sometimes now. But, yeah, I like this Raptors team. I think it is a sweep over the Brooklyn Nets. They're just not strong enough. We talked about this on the Nets pod. They don't have that star player right now. If Spencer Dinwiddie is the guy that you're trying to guard, and that's it, really, I mean, you're not really scared of that. They have DeAndre Jordan on the Nets. Let's not forget that. But he's not a scorer anymore, and he doesn't play as much as he used to either. They also have Jared Allen, who they kind of split time at center. So I agree with you, CJ. I do think that it would be a sweep between the Raptors and the Brooklyn Nets. So let's look at the rest of the matchups here. We have the number 3 seed, Boston Celtics, against the number 6 seed, Philadelphia 76ers. The Celtics are 43-21. Sixers are 39-26. But the big thing about the Sixers, they're 29-2 at home, 10-24 on the road. I look at that and I say, listen, I mean, Boston home court, they're winning that series.
Yeah. I think on a talent level, I slightly like the Philadelphia 76ers on a talent level throughout the roster. But geez, that Boston Celtics team plays such great basketball. They have a far superior head coach, and they're gonna have home court. I see this series as 4-2 Boston. I think the Sixers give them a little bit of a fight. It goes to 6 games, admirable enough. And then I think the Sixers are going to fire their head coach after the series, and I think they're going to blow up a lot of that roster. Sad times for Philadelphia. They had a potential. They could have won the finals last year. I mean, that Sixers team would have gone in to play the Warriors all beaten and broken, and I think that Sixers team was just as good as the Raptors because they forced the Raptors to go to Game 7 on a Kawhi Leonard fadeaway. So sad times for the Raptors, but I think it's a Game 6. Game 6 clinching win for Boston in Philadelphia. Cherry on the top. Goodbye.
Yeah, I agree with you on the 4-2. I think that Philly can at least get 2 games there. But when I think about the Boston Celtics, they are probably, and this might be a bold say, I think they're the most underrated team in the NBA. They have a lot of talent. First of all, you mentioned it, Brad Stevens, the head coach, one of the best in the NBA. But their roster is just complete. They've got guys all over. You have Kemba Walker at point guard. You have Jason Tatum, 2 legitimate starters over there. You have Enes Kanter at center, who can, really defend and even score a little bit. Jaylen Brown is very good. You also have Gordon Hayward coming off the bench, Marcus Smart. I mean, this team is loaded with dudes that can really ball. And if I'm looking at the Boston Celtics, they're more than just a one-round, win a playoff series, lose in the second round type of team. I think they can legitimately get to the East Finals. I don't think they get into the NBA Finals because of the Milwaukee Bucks, but they're certainly a team that I look at that can surprise people. And I mean, they've just been sneaking by at that 3 seed. Everyone's talking about Miami because they're the new show in town, and you got the Raptors, the defending champs, and Giannis in Milwaukee. But Boston's just sitting there very quietly with an all-star point guard, an all-star in Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Hayward. This team can really play basketball. So what are your thoughts on the Boston Celtics, CJ?
I like the Boston Celtics. I actually think that the Boston Celtics have the most intriguing young budding basketball player in Jason Tatum, because I think that Jason Tatum has all the skills and intangibles to be that next great thing. He hits his fadeaway just like Kobe Bryant did. He plays the game in a quiet but deadly way, just like all the greats that we talk about on a daily basis played. I really like Jason Tatum. I like the Boston Celtics organization. Something I would like to see though is Gordon Hayward get put a little fire to his game and get back to really what they signed him for. I'd like to see Gordon Hayward in the playoffs really, really go off and get his career back together. But look, I like the Celtics. I like their roster. They're going to make some noise. I don't know if I have them going past the second round, because that top half of the Eastern Conference bracket is pretty heavy.
I mean, I think I would have, and we'll talk about the grander scheme of the East after we talk about this series, but I'd probably have Boston beating Toronto. But that's really it. I think if they played Miami, it'd be a toss-up. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about that Miami Heat matchup first, though. So it would be the number 4 seed Miami Heat at 41-24 against the number 5 seed Indiana Pacers. They're 39-26. The Heat are 14-19 on the road, 27-5 at home. The Pacers are 21-11 at home, 18-15 on the road. So the Pacers are certainly a little bit more balanced. I do think the Pacers are a really good team. They're another team in the NBA. I kind of think of them as the Jazz East. They're a very good defensive team. They don't necessarily have a lot of stars, but they have a lot of good players. I mean, you have Malcolm Brogdon, 20 points a game type of guy. If Victor Oladipo was healthy all year, he would have been an all-star. I'm not really going to rely on his stats from this year. It's a small sample size. You have Domantas Sabonis, TJ Warren, and others. This Pacer team can really play. They have a great head coach. They're quiet like the Celtics are. I like teams with a quiet confidence in the NBA. They're not always out there. But when you're going up against the Miami Heat, Eric Spoelstra with those guys, I mean, with the Heat, you're not just talking beating the Pacers. You could potentially even force the Bucks to a 6 or 7 game series. That Heat team has height. They have shooting ability, contrary to Colin Cowherd's belief when he said that they have no shooters, which I know that made you very happy, CJ. But the Heat have shooters. They're young. They're a little old, too. They've got vet leadership. They have star power with Jimmy Butler and Bam. This is a great Heat team. I think really it would be I'm going to be generous just because of how well run the Pacers are and give it a 6 game series. But the Heat are significantly better than the Pacers. By the way, guys, CJ is a Heat fan.
So my opinion on this series, yes, I'm a huge Heat fan. I've had the privilege of my father having season tickets, or had season tickets, for a very long time. So people have to understand that the Indiana Pacers and the Miami Heat have a rivalry dating back about a decade. The Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers were the class of the East when the Miami Heat had LeBron, Chris Bosh, Ray Allen, Mike Miller, the list goes on. And the Pacers had Roy Hibbert, George Hill, Paul George, David West. I mean, they had a star-studded roster. Lance Stevenson, who can forget. So they have a rivalry, and I do like this series going 6 games because of the rivalry. The Indiana Pacers fans definitely feel robbed of a few finals appearances, similar to those Jazz teams that would play Michael Jordan's Bulls. The Pacers were a complete team, and the Heat were always just one step ahead. I think it happens again in this series, but I do agree with your assumption that it goes 6 games just because the Pacers are such a well-ran team organization and have a passionate fan base. It's going to be hard for the Heat to go in, and the Heat many times this year have dropped games to teams are far inferior to their talent level. And this is going to be a big test for the Heat. I'm sold on the Heat. I think the Heat can go to the Eastern Conference Finals, but something that people need to be honest with the Miami Heat about is that they don't play their same game at day in, day out. They're still a team trying to find their consistency, and so the Pacers are a deadly team for them to play. But yes, I would go Heat 4-2. I like Oladipo and Sabonis to at least get them 2 games.
I agree with you there, and I look at the Heat and I say, I would probably amount that inconsistency in play probably just to their youth. This is a group that's never played together as one before. Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, all those young players. They got to gel first. That's why, I think they could be a total NBA Finals contender next year. I would even, if they were projected to face the Bucks next year, I'd say Miami might even be able to beat them. This year, though, I would say Milwaukee's got the edge just because they've been there before. This group really has to gel first in Miami, but they have so much potential in the next 3 to 5 years of winning titles. Plus, the Heat have room for an extra cap space player, which we could talk about all we want. But I like this Heat team. I agree with you. It'll be 6 games. So let's talk about after this. I don't know how the bracket would shake out necessarily after these playoff series in terms of who would play who. But we could just look at it from a practical standpoint. Is it Milwaukee and everyone else, CJ?
I don't think so because I think that the gap between from the Bucks and then the other couple teams in the field, which would be Heat, Celtics, Raptors, isn't as far as people think because the Heat kind of exposed Milwaukee on a national stage on ESPN. I mean, they literally guarded the paint so well that they held Giannis to I don't even remember, it was 12 points, and the Heat ended up blowing out the Milwaukee Bucks. That's what I'm saying. The reason why when we first did the 1 seed versus the 8 is that I said that the supporting cast needs to heat up is because if they're not actually shooting the rock well, the Bucks aren't really anything after
true.
Giannis and somewhat Chris Middleton. I actually find the rosters of the Celtics, the Raptors, and the Miami Heat to be better throughout the top to bottom. But the thing is none of those teams have Giannis, who's the best player in the league, and he's going to carry. I like the Heat to be able to push the Bucks to 7 games if they were to play in the second round. And then I don't know, but I don't really think it's Bucks and then everyone else. I think it's Bucks and then the Heat, the Celtics, and the Raptors rounding out however you want to rank them. I think it's going to be a very, 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 very good series. Whoever the Bucks run into, whether it be Heat, Celtics, or Raptors, they're going to run into 2 of the 3. So, and I think that all those series go 6 or 7 games at the very least. So,
I mean, do you think, I have 2 questions about the Heat here. Do you think, number 1, could Duncan Robinson be an X factor? And number 2, do you think that the collection of players that the Heat have to guard Giannis is enough? The Iguodala, the Bam, the Butler, is that enough to guard Giannis?
So Duncan Robinson would 100% be an X factor. He's the best 3-point shooting player in the league at the moment, or for this season. He's breaking Kyle Korver's record. He's streaky, and the thing is he's not just a spot up shooter, a catch and shoot player. He actually moves off the ball really, really well. And it reminds me a lot of what Ray Allen was when he came to Miami. Ray Allen might not have been the same explosive shooting guard that could actually get to the rack or create all of his own space, but he ran so well off the ball and he was so unbelievably quick. Duncan Robinson is way quicker than people give him credit, and he doesn't need much space to just drill a three. And his range is incredible. Now, when it comes to guarding Giannis, 100% the Heat have the personnel. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Andre Iguodala, Crowder. I mean, I'm sure I'm forgetting at least one person. They can all cover, like they all create a triple or double team to cover Giannis. I'm telling you, this is the one team that Giannis is looking at on paper and saying, this is going to be the hardest series I'm going to have going to the finals. For sure. The Heat can push them to 7 games because of how agitated Giannis is going to be. And he's going to get in foul trouble pretty early because the Heat attack the basket. Jimmy Butler attacks the basket. He throws his body around everywhere. Bam Adebayo in the paint attacks the basket. That would be such a good series, and I'm so sad that at the moment we're being robbed of it, and I'm praying the NBA comes back. But I think the Heat have all the tools to beat the Bucks, at the very least pushing the game 7.
Well, that's a great argument, very compelling there. But, you were just talking about it. Will this even be played? Would you want to see a playoff series, or not playoff series, but the entire playoffs? Would you want to see that in Las Vegas? Because I've heard that there's rumors in Vegas that they're going to do that.
As long as it's played.
Yeah, for real. I mean, we're desperate for anything at this point.
As long as it's played. They would probably do like a March Madness type thing where that one arena would be holding the games, and you would buy a ticket, and your ticket would last like for 3 games of that day. So I'm sure we would get a 12 o'clock game. We'd get a 4 o'clock game, 4 o'clock game, and then we get the 8 o'clock game, whatever, all in the same place, which I love. And, not that we're talking about NHL, but they're looking at doing the NHL in North Dakota. But anyway, the NBA season needs to be complete. Kobe Bryant passed away. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. One of the best players to ever play the game. The Lakers have all the storylines going forward right now. They've got, one of the best teams in the league. They're going to find a way to finish this league. And the thing is the NBA has to be looking at the NHL saying, gosh, we are lucky, because they can start the playoffs tomorrow with no remorse for the teams that are trying to get in. Because the gap in the 7 games off the pace, the ninth place team. And then the West is a few games. I mean, I think the NBA is gonna find a way to do it, and I'm on board. As a Heat fan, I'm on board. Heat fans are all across the country. I wouldn't have any fears of feeling like the Heat wouldn't have any fans in the stands. I mean, I'm sure a few teams around the league would be a little weary of wanting to do it in a neutral location, but for the most part, I mean, you look at the teams that are in the playoffs, it's usually the same teams. I mean, you're going to have the Lakers, the Clippers, the Heat, the Celtics, the 76ers. Yeah. These teams are have great fan bases. So, the fan traveling will be there. I would love to see it. And if I have to see it on a neutral arena, I don't mind whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we have to be aware that there really is no perfect solution. And whatever solution we can get, we just got to take it at this point. Everything really can't be perfect anymore. We can't say, we want everyone playing in their – it's just not realistic to wish that people are going to play in their arenas right now. But you mentioned the late, great Kobe Bryant. He leads the Hall of Fame class right now with Kevin Garnett and Tim Duncan. They are part of the Hall of Fame class of 2020. Congratulations to those guys. Just a great Hall of Fame class. Do you have any thoughts on that Hall of Fame inductees for Garnett, Duncan, and Kobe?
I think they all should be unanimous type players. Kobe Bryant, I really wish he was there in person. He would have delivered such an amazing speech. He's such a well-spoken guy. I always loved hearing him speak. when he was playing, it was really tough to like the guy just because he was so good. I remember him hitting that three to beat the Heat right over Dwayne Wade. I was like, oh gosh, I hate this guy. But he after retirement, I just loved hearing him speak so much just because he tackled retirement so well and what he was doing outside. I was so excited to see what he would be doing for the rest of his life. Robbed of him too soon. The world was, but I wish Kobe was there to deliver another basketball speech. Tim Duncan, probably the most underrated NBA player of all time. I mean, his accolades are incredible, and no one ever really speaks about the guy. Kevin Garnett, amazing power forward. I love my power forwards. I really wish Chris Bosh was there.
I agree with you, man.
He's gonna get in the Hall of Fame because he deserves it. He was a great player. I mean, he has all the stats, the finals. He's got the big plays under his belt. He's gonna get in. I really think he should have got in this year, but I kind of understand why he's not there. I think it would look a little bit off if it's Kobe, Garnett, Duncan, and then Chris Bosh. So he'll get in next year. And, next time around, no problem. But I wish Chris Bosh was there. Other than that, I mean, you can't argue any of those. Those are all-time type players. And I got the privilege of watching them in their prime for the most part.
For sure. And it really is an amazing Hall of Fame class. But that'll do it for this Eastern. So actually, we actually didn't say this. Who are we coming out of the East? We didn't actually say it. I had Milwaukee coming out of the East. What's your final decision, CJ? Who would it be?
I can't really go away from Milwaukee. And if there was one other team that I would like to see in the East go forward, if it's not the Miami Heat, it's the Milwaukee Bucks, because I want to see Giannis and Milwaukee succeed. I'd like to see them get in the finals. I love it when it's not. I'm loving this new NBA where it's not the Warriors versus the Cavs. I'm loving
yes, dude.
the fact that I'm going to see different teams this year. Here's what I like. I like the Heat to push the Bucks to Game 7. I think the Bucks go on. I think the Bucks play the Celtics. It's going to be a great series. I think that series ends in 6 games. Bucks play the Lakers. Or I'm not going to reveal my Western Conference pick just because that's for the next podcast.
Video, yeah.
But I see the Bucks coming out of the East, and rightfully so. They've had such a great season, but don't count out the Bucks losing round 2 to the Miami Heat.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, CJ. But yeah, so we both have Bucks coming out of the East as of right now. A lot of stuff could change. The entire bracket could be different. Who knows? But right now, if things started today, we both have the Milwaukee Bucks going to the NBA Finals, representing the Eastern Conference. Who is representing the West? Well, you'll find that out on Wednesday. We're going to do our Western Conference NBA playoff preview on Wednesday. It'll upload at some point on all of the platforms that we release on. You can see all of those on our Twitter at Strict Sports FAU, STRICT, Sports FAU. Then you can see all the places that we post these pods at. We post them on Spotify, on Anchor, Breaker, Radio Public, a lot of other places, Google Podcasts, YouTube, just a ton of outlets that we're posting these on, and you could check them out anytime you want during the sports hiatus. So for CJ Uri, I am Jacob Brown, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.